What's happening, everyone? It is Friday, Airbrush Down and Dirty Tricks night. Couldn't do last night. Storms coming in, must have messed with something. It was just like all my numbers were off, and it was going to be a really glitchy feed. So I decided to postpone it tonight and get some more stuff ready and just have the feed go off well. I think it's much better off that way. Let me get my Facebook one turned on here. There we go. All right, we got Facebook on live, we got YouTube on live. Let's see who we got in the house tonight. Thank you all for coming on a Friday night. I know you guys had better things to do on a Friday night, so thank you for watching me. I appreciate it. So we got Paul, we got James Ray, Virgilio, the nameless subscriber. How's it going, man? JP Taz, airbrushing. Cool. Cody Adams just popped in. How's it going? So I think the feed should be good. The audio sounds strong, and the speeds look good. So I think we're in a really good shape for this feed tonight. Yeah, take two, almost take two, but take one never happened. Got my brother Todd over on Facebook just popped in, and we are gonna get going on this in just a second. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing tonight. I'm gonna bring up the reference image. Kaylee, why don't you bring up the reference image online? You got to turn on the downstream key. There we go. So this is the image we're going to be doing. This is a Reaper I've done quite a few times, actually, in multiple variations. So the original one I did was on a really bitchin' street rod for AK Rods and Customs years back. I probably did it 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even 8. And then I did a few variants of the same one after that. And so what I've done is, these have been on vehicles for years, and I've kind of repurposed the designs into something we can do in a lesson. And this is something that's great about vector libraries of things, because you can have this library of items that you can then tweak and reformat and change and do all sorts of cool stuff with it. So it's not just a one-time use thing or it's one and done. So let me click over to the actual screen here of what we got, and let's talk about this. Okay, so this is the one we're using. This is the actual Reaper we're using tonight. This is what this one is based off. It's the same mask, pretty much the same format. I did some adjustments. I took the file, just tweaked it to fit on this 12x18 aluminum panel. This was much bigger on the car. It was mostly the side quarter panel. And I've made this a downloadable link, which is available on McKayFineArt.com. There's a link in the description, and in that description, you can go in, you can click over, and you'll see all the different images. There's a whole reference image there. So this is one of the ones that's coming in on it. Another variant is the Gambler one, which has the hand with 2 cards. You got poker chips, things like that. And the same cemetery, just inverted and flipped and sized a little different. This one here, which I did in one of my classes. So it's the same one flip, but I've changed the cloak a little bit. We've done some sewing, it's got some repairs and some extra holes and things going on. And the hands have more of a flesh hand, so you could do fire and stuff coming out of it, and the hands reaching out. Now, what you could do, what I've done here is the hands and stuff are separate. So you could mix and match. You could put these hands on the one we're doing today. You can put those hands on this one and change it. You can just, Daisy delete this. You can mix and match, almost like a Mr. Potato Head. Just kind of move things around, or create your own variants and hands like that. What it also has is some other background elements. All right, you have crows, bats, these cool trees, and these you can put in. I'll show you how I'm going to work them in to the piece and just kind of change the scene around. It just shows you kind of some versatility. You can have one file that can do multiple things. Obviously, you can invert them and flip them and stretch them and size them, but there's all sorts of things you can do to it. In later downloads, I'm going to have some expansions on this, because I've done variants of this with the Scarecrow. I've done variants with the Pumpkin King, or all kind of offshoot variants of this, and you'll see that in later downloads. But yeah, this is on the store right now. Early bird special is $40. I know it's the more expensive of my downloads, but it is a huge download that you can do a lot of things with. It's almost like having 4 different downloads, because you can use these in any painting, you can use trees and so much stuff, you can use crows. So it's a really cool download. After next week, that's going to go up to $45. Early Bird Special is going to get it for 40, so make sure you go check it out. All right, so let's see.
Did you hit record?
I did not hit record, and I'm going to do that now. Thank you. That would have been nice to do, but I'm going to have to take the footage off the YouTube recording. So good. Okay. So this is the image we're going to be doing. This is actually the painted version, of what I did years back, and I got you on the screenshot here so you can actually see it. And I'm going to work it from this because I can't see the one you see on screen. I know a few of you guys already downloaded it last night. I want to thank you for doing that. So maybe if you guys are following along, we'll go from there. And I'll help you along the way. Feel free to ask questions if you are following along, and I'll help you through it. Let's talk about the paint I'm using tonight. So I'm going to bring up the list of paint colors. I'm using 4 colors on this. Well, not really colors, but they're all variants of black and gray. So I have Createx Wicked Opaque White. That's the strongest of the opaque whites, but you can use whatever white you prefer. There's also Illustration Opaque White. I'd recommend that as well. The Wicked is a little stronger, so I'm going to use that. My main build color is going to be the 5004 Neutral Gray. That is in the Steve Gibson line of the Createx Illustration. Then I have Standard Createx Illustration Black. That's what I use to block things out in the background, and if I want to get it back to the black of the panel. And then most of my detail and shading, I'm going to use the Candy 2O Black. So those are 4 colors I'm using, and that's pretty much very similar to what I did when I did this. When I did this one here, I used a very similar color scheme. All right. So now we got that going. We will bring up back to the reference area. Reference. And then, so what I've done here, I've already actually plotted out and weeded out and stuck the basic how I'm going to do it. So if you're starting out, this is your plot so you can see it. And basically before you transfer tape it, I plotted this out on the machine, and then I pre-weeded these backgrounds out like this. I took this area out first, okay? So take this area out, then transfer tape it, and then apply it to your board. It's probably a little hard to see, but you can see all the cut lines are already in. Let me go into camera 3 here, and you can see all the cuts and the teeth and everything's already here, ready to go. For this, I'm using the FBS Gold Mask. And the Gold Mask I like because it is the thinnest of the FBS masking. The Gold Mask, also because it's a paper type mask, actually leaves a slightly softer edge than the vinyls. The vinyls have a really sharp edge. These have a sharp edge. For some reason, the paper makes it just a hair softer on it. So when I'm doing more of a fine art approach, or I want things really soft, I typically start with this. Unless I'm on a super curved surface, then I'll use the blue mask. And what I've done is I've cut out some trees. This is out of the green mask. The green mask is transparent. And what I like about the green mask is it's flexible and it's transparent, so I like it in a stacking, in a layering. We got some bats here, and we got some crows, so I can decide which ones I'm going to use. And I got a big circle cut out here. I think we'll do like a moon in the background. And so we'll talk about how to kind of set things up and kind of how to stack things. So I talk a lot about sequential masking. Sequential masking is typically what gets put on first gets taken off last, and so on sequentially from there. So I know we're going to be working on last, but I want to do some background elements, and I want to do the moon, which is going to be behind him, and I think I'm going to do the crows. I think the crows will be more fun than the bats. The bats, yeah, I'm not going to use the bats. And I'm going to use the tree. So I got to think of which goes first. So obviously the moon's further back, so that has to go last. And then I got to have the crows, and I got to have the trees. So I'm going to put the tree in. I'm just going to use one of these guys. I'm not going to use both. I'm just going to take one of the trees. Hey, Michelle. So like I said, this file comes with both these trees, and you can use these in so many things. Tweak them and size them and go from there. Taylor, need your help? Just drop that. Let me see who's here. Alright, so I got the tree here. Like I said, you can put this tree here. I can put another one back here if I wanted to. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. And then, so I'm going to have this one. And then I'm going to have the crows. The crows, and then we'll do the moon. So I'll show you how kind of I stack this up. And these, I'm just going to, remember, they weren't shrinky dinks. They were like, they used to like clings. You used to like get all the comic book characters and stuff and like a scene, and you just make a board. Like you'd make like an action scene by sticking stuff on in place. So I'm going to put him on, which means he would come off second to last. This is just kind of building a scene. This is a great trick if you have a really complex idea that you have to lay on a curved surface, like on a bike. It's much easier to like build it in pieces and put it on the bike and get it to fit than it is to, try to like make it all wrap around a bike in one piece. So I know these are going to be hard to see. You might not even see it on camera. Yeah, the green mask, you don't even see it. It's going to be like a surprise then. On black, the green mask, I can see it perfectly. You're not going to see it. But it's there. And I'm going to stick the other one over here. Sorry, this is going to weed off pretty quick. Happy little trees. That's right, happy little trees. I'm going to stick this. You're not going to see the trunk, so we're going to pitch it a little bit like that. And pull the mask off. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to see much of that either, so that's going to get more confusing than it's worth. Almost pulled off some mask. We're going to lose that. We'll just kind of let it happen. All right, some crows. Let's get some crows here. I'm just going to cut these guys out. And we're just going to, I know the circle. I'm going to put the moon like right here. So we'll have the crows kind of staggered around the moon. I actually ran out of blue mask. I would have rather used the blue for the video, would have shown up better. I'm going to have one back here. Here. Happy little trees. Hey David, how's it going? And we'll put this crow like, he's kind of big. We're gonna put him, Right about there. See how that works out. So we got those two guys, and I'm just kind of building the scene. And this moon is going to kind of stagger over them all. And I cut a positive negative in case I need to go back in. Or you can just use a circle template, or you could use the old tape circle. Invisible decal application. Yeah, it's... I thought you'd be able to see it a little bit, but I guess we can't, so like I said, it's going to be a surprise. You can see it a little bit more on this one than you can. But like I said, this is going to be on and off really quick, so you'll get the gist of this really fast. Because this is background, so it's going to be just kind of in there really simple. But it's going to frame off the Reaper's skull really cool. And now I'm just going to back tape. Use these FPS maskers. Just back tape that out so we don't get any overspray. Where's the FPS? There's no white mask. So you have blue, white mask, and like the yellow mask. There's plenty of them on the market. They're a little thicker. They work well. When they design the FBS, it's more of a specialty mask. It's not like an everyday normal use mask. It's for typically higher end work and things you need to flex and curve where you need them really thin. So you know, use any type of masking you're used to for that stuff. All right, so for a moon, I'm going to start with my gray, and we're going to give the moon a little Carol Mendez effect here. It's going to be pretty subtle, but in person, you see it. Oh, actually, there's two other little things I'm going to pick out of this, and there's two little tears. When you look at the file, they're actually, you know, these little guys here, you'd actually see the background through those openings. So I'm gonna take those out. Oh yeah, the tape circle works awesome. So anytime I'm doing gray, I'm gonna go over with some white. And that's why I'm doing it. I used to do everything on black with just white to start. And what that does, it leaves you almost nowhere to go. But by starting with a gray as a mid-tone, it allows me to get multiple layers. So that's that number 4 gray. And now, see, I can add the white, and I can get multiple layers of everything. And I'm going to push a lot of this back in the background later, so it's just kind of there. We're going to do some clouds and things like that. And I can add to it. Notice I'm not blowing a whole ton of paint off the edge. I don't want a big build-up edge. We can do some like just freehand little effects and just kind of get it like there's something going on back there. Alright, I think that's good. Now I can pull off these guys here. So now we're going to take our time pulling this off and make sure it doesn't pull what's underneath it, because there's a lot of little stuff going on. Everything's staying fine. Good. Just looks like the moon's hanging out there. Let's do some clouds. Alright, I like doing clouds. Again, I use Gerald's texture effects quite a bit for this, or I'll use like a, old scuff pad, like a Scotch-Brite pad. But either way, when I do it, if I take a Scotch-Brite pad or I get a template like this, I hold it off about 1/4 inch.
Someone on Facebook asked how much is this panel?
How much is this panel?
I assume you mean cost, and it's up for bidding?
Yeah, so these panels are up for bidding as we go through this painting. The panel itself, these metal panels are very cheap. I buy them in a 4x8 sheet, it's about $100, and they cut them down to 12x18, so I get about 22 of these. So they're very affordable. Yes, Adam, my network is running good tonight. So, see what I'm doing? I'm getting that cloud-like feel and not a sharp edge of the stencil, because I'm keeping the stencil off the surface about 1/4 inch. And that's going to allow me to get all this background laid in. See, I'm just kind of moving. I move as I paint. And it just starts to give me that nice looking kind of cloud. And I'll do this with both colors. I'll use the gray and I'll use the white. But yeah, if I start with white here, then I go back in with white, it's just going to get a little whiter. You're not going to have the tone. But by doing gray, it allows me to get multiple tones, and I can cut back in with black even before I do any of the pulling. I can get this all laid in. What's up, Mr. Barker? And I can kind of freehand a little bit of cloud edges here. And just kind of work it. Like I said, I can go back into the end. And you can take as much time as you want here. I'm obviously going faster than I normally would in a car, just because I try to keep these feeds 2 hours or under. So I'm going to attack this pretty quick. So now what I can do is I can shape some of this with the black. This is the straight black. But be very careful here. I want to put a little black over the cloud, just let it, over the moon, and let it kind of cancel out a little bit. I'm going to cut back in with white at the end, but I'm just kind of trying to shape some of the negative space using the illustration black. Just to kind of tone things out. And this is regular illustration black, not the opaque. The opaque's really strong. I want to have a little build control. Remember, I always like a 3 to 4 pass kind of feel. How's it going, Lynn? On CoastAirBrushTV.com, Gerald Mendes did a really amazing cloud demo years back. So if you're looking for really good demos on clouds, that's probably one of the best ones that I've found. Alright, so now I'm going with the illustration white. So you see now how the illustration white will really pop off. See that? Now I can like hit the bottoms of the clouds with the inserts and just kind of get it. You know, you can put a lightning bolt in here right now. Look, I'll put a big bright spot in the cloud, and then we'll do like a glow in the direction. We'll have it come behind the clouds. And then,
does the illustration color work as well as Wicked on the metal panel?
yes. Yep, they stay still erasable. So if you don't want the erasability, you want a little harder, you can add the 40-30 or 40-50 to it. But I use them on metal all the time. And you're actually not using it on metal, you're using it on another paint color or a primer over a sealer. So I wouldn't put illustration directly down on bare metal. You got to have a primer or like a sealer first. Just like with automotive paint, you wouldn't put that over bare metal. You'd have to put a suitable primer down first. Same thing with illustration colors. So just a simple roughed in background. This is enough where I can come back in. But now, you'll notice, now we can find the invisible creatures. So you can still see that moon back there, but it's not as big as it was before because it's a little bit more understated. So let's pull off the crows, and we're just going to leave them in simple silhouettes. I could leave these towards the very end, but I want to get a little reveal right now. See? You can see that. Crows. Use some sound effects. And now I'm going to pull the tree. Now you can soften up this tree with a little, like, overspray, fog is what I want to do. And you can come back in with a brush and you can add other branches and stuff. But, you know, this moon is back there, but it's not the most, like, prominent thing. It's just kind of soft.
Someone asked, would you spray liquid colors directly onto a cured 2-part epoxy primer?
You could. Yeah, you just gotta sand that primer and scuff it, you know, for direct, because you need a mechanical bond. So you would go with, you'd scuff your primer, and then you can go right with Wicked after that if you'd like. Definitely, with the Wicked you don't need to, but with other stuff you'd want to add the 40-50. So look, I'm just fogging all these trees a little bit, and that kind of takes them out. You can go in and actually, like, highlight some branches if you want, and it'll look less, like, stencily, like it's catching some light. A lot of this stuff I go in at the end and do that stuff, but you can just see, let me switch cameras here, so you can see just how cool that looks. It's just, with a few minutes, it's already there. Yeah, scuff it first. Now I would, with 40-50 is an additive that makes your paint more like a polyurethane, so it sticks harder surface, it makes it more durable, less erasability, dries a little harder and quicker. 4011 is the reducer, or 4013. Now I would still probably prime. I would take that primer, I'd probably scuff it, and I would put a base color down. Like if you know, I would put like a black base color or another color. Yeah, 40-50 is a top coat and an additive. You can use 40-30 as well. I prefer the 40-50. But yeah, this, I know a lot of focus on this right now, but ultimately when this is done, it's really just in the background. And I can come back in like with black, and I can add like little, just because I misted it with white, I can add these little like details in, and you'll see it when it's cleared, and it won't just look like, you know, a beach scene silhouette. It'll have some different levels. If you freehand it in a brush, you can do some brush work. Yeah, Joe, if you need any questions, give me a buzz or, you know, message me. I can help you through some stuff. Just like automotive, there's a lot of components to it now. Automotive's always had a lot of components, so I had an automotive background, so I'm used to it. But a lot of people who weren't automotive just started to remember all these additives. There's a lot to it, but it's kind of normal for auto guys to have lots of different mixtures and ratios and chemical, you know, things to change the paint. So cool. Simple background. Hello, Kevin. How are you? I got 47 people in here tonight. Awesome. So you see, that's the background. Now, we've talked about it in a lot of my projects before. Sequential masking, like I said. You know, we've already done what's gone first, came off last. You saw that with the, you know, the tree went down, then the crows went down, then the moon, and then I reversed it. So I'm doing the same thing here, but I'm looking at my reference image. The reference image, if you look at, you got to see what's behind what's in the background, what's in the foreground, things like that. But I got to flip around a little bit and see what works. So the sickle, or the side, is behind the head. So I want to work that. I'm going to work that edge a little bit. So let me just take a quick peek at what I got to do. So I want this edge brighter. So I'm going to pull this. But I want to make sure that I have enough delineation. I want to make sure there's enough gray and paint along the edge, okay? Because realistically, I'm going to remove the mask and not overly detail it, and then I'll go in the end and really sharpen things out. So I'm going to pull both the beveled edges because they're going to be really bright white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that edge. I'm just going to use the white at this point. I should be able to see all three images there. Absolutely love those trees. Oh, cool, man. Yeah, they've come in handy. I've used those on lots of jobs. So now I'm going to brighten up the edge. I'm going to brighten up the edge of the blade. And I'm going to put little striations and little just kind of mini dagger strokes in them. So I'm going to put right against that edge. I'm going to leave the edge almost black. That's going to give me some separation. Because if I go too white, I'm going to lose it. And I can cut back in later with some paper templates and things. But I really want to get the blade itself. Alright, now this is the opaque white. I've reduced it, probably about maybe 15-20%. Yes, it's up for bids. Everything's up for bids, sir. So yeah, so that's nice and bright. Now I can pull the rest of this. Now you can see the whole blade is there.
Yeah, Carl, this one is up for bids, like always.
Yep. And I'm just going to hit up here with just a little bit of gray. Actually, a little bit of the white, and but very soft. I could use the gray as well here, but I'm just going to keep using the white. Just go soft with it. I'm going to put some, again, little striations and like breaks and cracks in it like it's been used a lot. And but having the moon backlit, it almost puts the blade in silhouette. And then I let this edge kind of catch the light so it looks really sharp. That's kind of my thought process behind it. This little rivet right there. Just got to hit that rivet. And now I'm going to pull kind of the blade holder, like it's part of here. And I just cover off the edges. Okay, a lot of this is just setting up for further detail, but when getting the majority of it laid in and getting all that kind of tone. Just getting the tones laid in. Then, like I said, I can carve in details later. So this is running into the wing. So I'm just going to use a piece of paper here. Just make sure I get a little separation. But there's not going to be much needed down there. But I'm just really setting up for here. So I'm going to leave that. And I want to start bringing out, let's see here. We're going to bring out the hands. Intuitively, I used to always do the skull first, okay? But I don't, because you need to have basically the hood rimlet really well. So actually what I do is I'm going to do the hands right here and here first. I'm going to show you how to do that. Then we're going to pull the cloak, and then it's the face. So that way it has a natural drop shadow in. It makes more sense as I do it. And if you follow along, the more you do this project, you start understanding it more and more. You know, I'm working background to foreground. So basically, if I want something brighter, I got to do that first, then something darker. Okay, so I got to figure out which is which at certain times. So it kind of flips around a little bit, but it does make a lot of sense the first time you do it, maybe less when you're watching it, but it all does come together. So with the hands, what I typically do is I look at hands like any type of cylindrical shading, basic airbrush shading, cylindrical. So basically got to pull the centers, and we're going to highlight where instead of if you're on doing black cylindrical shading, you do the core shadows top and bottom to get that cylindrical radius. When you do it at this, you're going to go opposite. You're going to do core highlights first instead of core shadows. I may have said that backwards. I'm going to be doing core highlights now. Typically, if you're on a white source, you'd be doing core shadows. Alright, so basically I'm going to pull the top knuckles first and then the lowers. So I'll do this hand then the other one. Oops, pulled a little too aggressively. So watch, this is one knuckle. Thank you, Gary, very much for that. Much, much appreciated. I got the ball rolling nicely. This is going to be a great looking piece. And like I said, for those wanting to do this or follow along, this is downloadable on McKayFineArt.com, and you get all those different Reapers to use in multiple projects and really have fun with it. Oh, actually, instead of going white, I'm going to do the gray, so I have the white to highlight. So yeah, so I'm going to do the gray, the same thing. So notice what I'm doing. I'm just going really down the center of that knuckle to let the overspray cast. Now watch, when I pull the next one next to it, you can see the whole knuckle. It goes to the edge. And I just have to do that nice core highlight down the center. And this is just, like I said, this is a guide for freehanding all the shadows, doing all the dark line work. That's what this part is for. I'm not trying to render fully detailed here, use the plotting to like do everything. This is just as a gauge. We are very hot and humid in here tonight. You can probably hear the air conditioner in the background a little bit, but I can't shut it off. Well, I went up like last week where this place got so hot I couldn't do the feed because it was over 90 degrees up here. Right now we're approaching 80, but 80's manageable. So notice I did this. That was on top of this one, so then I went to that one. That was on top of this one to that one, and then I flipped over to this side. So always working from top down, or what has to be brightest. Now we have the rest of the knuckles. It's this guy here. Oops. And on to the next one. And by doing this way, this is super fast. Like when I did this car originally, this was on both sides of the car. Hence why I would want to do it plotter. Because I can set this up and I masked out both sides of the car. And basically, I went from one side of the car to the other, doing each piece. Each step. I didn't do like knuckle, back knuckle. I did the whole hand, then went to the other side of the car, did the whole hand, back to this side of the car, did the hand, the next piece, and then just kept going back and forth. What state is the studio in? Yeah, I'm on the Mass New Hampshire border. So I'm right in Merrimack, Massachusetts. And we're a bit over 80 now, I think, here. We were in the 90s today. Next week's going to be really hot. Yeah, it's just trying to keep it cool up here. But this the studio is on the 3rd floor of my house, and it's tough to keep it cool in a 130-year-old house with no central AC.
Someone on Facebook asked if it's cut by hand.
If that's what?
Cut by hand.
No, so this has been plotted out. So typically what I would normally do is cut it by hand. But for projects like this where I do it multiple times or flip left to right on a vehicle, I take that same cut process I would normally cut by hand, and this is my original drawing. I just scan in the computer, then I design all the cuts in Adobe Illustrator. So that way the machine cuts it, and I can size it and change it and tweak it for any time I use it. So it's just basically speeding up my hand process, but making it more efficient for doing it multiple times. So, same thing. Now I'm going to move to the other hand and do the same process. And you'll see, probably within the first hour, we'll have all this mask off. And if you want to put little details at this point, you can. You can do little things like lines. I don't bother really at this point. I just typically like, no, I'm not moving this 130-year-old house, Carl. So the basements here are fieldstone basements. Not fun. Oh, Brian, this is FBS mask. This is FBS's gold mask. That question just got asked over on the Facebook side. That's fine. Is that where to see it? Again, this is all done that gray, so that my black and white I have can push and pull. You know, I'm just doing soft pillow strokes because it's black and I got that white cloud around it. It's giving me that natural shading. Let me see if I can go in on this side. You kind of see it more straight on what I'm doing. If we can zoom in a little more. Guys over on Facebook, if you click that link in the description, that'll bring you over to YouTube. And YouTube, it is the multiple camera angles and it's high def, and you can see all the information that comes up on screen that you won't see on Facebook. I'm just doing soft dagger strokes or like pillow strokes just down the center, and that's giving me, see how it automatically looks like that radius knuckle. Nah, yeah, 6 foot maybe. Yeah, my basement's maybe just over 6 feet. I'm 6 feet. I can walk around it, so I'm closer to 7 foot, luckily. So it's full walkable. Just fieldstone. So, you know.
It's wet.
They're kind of moist. Alright, so the hands are done. And now what I'm going to do is, again, we're going to move up to the cloak of the Reaper. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull this main part here. So if you're keeping track, what...
Do we ask, are those my skull magnets if I'm using?
Yes, they are, and that's how we hold papers. We use our little skull magnets. How do you know how you saw those up there? Oh yeah, there they are. Yep. Unfortunately, they don't stick to these aluminum boards. But yes, these are great for holding reference and things like that. All right, so where was I? Oh, I need a pencil. Give me that Sharpie.
Sharpie?
Yeah, for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Alright, so this is what I pulled first. Did all this, we did the trees, we did the moon, we did the cacaw birds. Cacaw. Okay, that's all done. Then I went and pulled this one, pulled this, this, and then we did the knuckles. Okay, we did all that, and that kind of gives me background and foreground. Hello from Brazil! And now we're going to pull this one here. We're going to basically pull this one here, and we're going to pull all under here, because that's going to allow me to... the vector doesn't have the line continue down here, because you can change it. I just manually will just shade some of that stuff in here like that. Yeah. So, Kara, yeah, the basement's only 6-7 foot, but the rest of the house is all 9-10 foot ceilings. Yeah, the steel wool works great for clouds. So does Scotch Brights and things like that. Alright, so we got chem working. Alright. I'm going to show you something really quick. If you want to, like, before you move on, if you want to kind of tone out these guys a little brighter first. Oh, I missed a knuckle.
Did you?
There's one down here. The thumb coming under. Boop.
Oh.
Oh. Exactly. I noticed it. Just shade it. So before you move on, if you want to add some white, you could like now watch. You can highlight that center of the knuckle now, and because you start with gray, now that white shows up really nice, and you get nice tone. And you can actually do a little detail in here if you want, and start detailing those knuckles and putting a little kind of marks and things in them just to make them look cool. See that, how fast that was? Let's do the other one, just so you can see it before we move on. Because I'm going to go both on this next part. So by doing the gray first, I can come in, I can kind of shape the bone, give it a little detail. And for those who follow my page a lot, that Reaper bike I just did, you know, that whole bagger. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 original Reaper scenes on that bike. And the process was the same way for all of it. Some of it was by hand, some of it was paper cut, some of it I plotted pieces, some I didn't. It just depends. And what's interesting about that bike, that customer brought me, you know, like 24 reference images of all the Reaper stuff from online, like the guy with the gun, you know, the Reaper with the guns coming straight at you, the Reaper with the he looks like he has like maces in his hands and like blades, you know, playing cards. And instead of just copying each one verbatim, what I did is I used those as reference and then created an original version of those for this customer. I'm going to talk more about that in some future videos about when people give you reference images from other artists, you know, you can use that to help derive an original as opposed to just copying it verbatim. It gives you more of an original piece. For me, it makes you feel better about not copying something directly. But it, you know, the reference area gives me that stepping stone.
Do we ask anything that you and Ryan will do with design finish on it?
I don't know. It's possible. We'll usually think of that when we get closer. We've done this Reaper. We did a version of this Reaper at the Rendezvous years ago, and it had a bunch of like basically tribal graphics around it and like sweeping colors. It was a really cool piece. I don't know where that ended up. I think it's still at Coast somewhere. So we have done them. I did a variant of this one at the Airbrush Art Circus as well, and that was this one here. We actually did this on a Lumalore panel, so the whole skull and everything lights up. I still got that on the side. That's a cool one. Okay, but so it's... Hey, Mom! So see how quickly that came together about those hands, and, you know, again, we're under an hour, and we've got a lot of this already roughed in, and the skull will be one of the last pieces, so we're going to get to that. Alright, so I'm going to get the top of the hood. Now before I do that, again, I need to make sure I have enough delineation. That's the key to this stuff, is just making sure you have enough separation. So I'm going to make sure this blade right here in the hood has enough separation so when I pull it, it's not black to black. See, but now I have enough there. And there's an extra little tear right here, so there's a cut that stops. I did this so I can do this. Just have a little, I just hit that edge, just that littlest bit, and that's going to help me locate like where to do like a wrinkle later. That's all that's for. I pull that. I'm going to pull all this back here. I'm going to pull around all the cemetery. And up in here, you'll see this little bit. That's underneath the sickle or the side. I always call it a sickle, and it's not. It's the side. But as a kid, I always thought it was a sickle because I thought the name was cooler, and it's not, because the sickles are hook shaped.
But they're both used for the same thing.
They're both used, yeah.
I think they might be used for different types of plants, maybe?
Probably, yeah. Like, scythes are used for mowing down whole fields. Like, you just... So basically, now I'm pulling all this. I'm pulling this. Oh, this is all part of the front cloak, and it's a little bit of the back cloak here behind, but just coming down there. For those coming in late, we do have some bids going on this. I think we're at $250 still.
Yes,
last I checked.
We are. You're correct.
And then anyone interested in following along, you can obviously go to my site, MckayFineArt.com. I'll put up the link. So MckayFineArt.com, that's where you find all my vector downloads and things like that. In Supernatural, did he have a sickle or did he have a scythe like this? Or did he have an actual, like, hooked sickle in Supernatural? I forget.
Sickles look more like crescent moon shape.
Yeah, sickles are crescent moon. More of a crescent moon versus this long curve. And as we're doing this, we've got to give some love to Fisheye Filter, one of our sponsors that helps the show go. Keep my paint dry, with water-based especially. Thanks, Nikki. So what I do here, I'm just doing soft strokes, mimicking kind of the shape of how the fabric would go. And this is with the gray. And I'm not trying to get too far into here, but I gotta make sure, again, like anything else, I gotta make sure I have delineation in here. And while I'm doing that, there's another fold right here you're gonna pull. This is kind of the fold and like a ripple. It just kind of creates a nice twist to the cloak. And make sure you get up here. So up here, I'm gonna go like, I'm gonna spray actually on the mask and overlap it, just so it's got good separation. What panel? This is a 12 by 18. This is a rather big panel for normal. For these feeds, I usually do half the size. But for this, I wanted that room to really move and really be able to show all the detail. Okay, then here, just gonna let that cloak come down like this. And I'm not going to do much over here because I want to kind of go to black. I'm going to put some clouds. Yeah, we're going to backlight and rim light this whole cemetery at the end. Because it's the foreground, the most foreground, that comes off last. So just do some detail, whatever you like, and look how close, fold, and kind of just give it a little something that you want to do. And that's key, so I want that to go off of it. And I'm going to go in now, and I'll highlight the edge with a little white. And I'll stay inside that detail and just kind of create that edge. We can do little details and tears and things like that, and kind of come off this, and basically leaving room for later where I can do a lot of extra detailing and things like that. And I can take this white. I can just go rim light this kind of right now. Right, and it's just starting to shape everything. It really looks kind of flat monotone now, but this is building that tone that I can airbrush. Yeah, Gary, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So this is a side, which is typically what a Grim Reaper holds. I used to always call it a sickle, and some variations have done it as that. The sai is more traditional because the sai is used in harvesting, and that's kind of what the Reaper is doing. It's harvesting souls. All right, so let's get into the skull, because we're at that point. This is where it gets really fun. Like, I could go in here with the black and start detailing more. I'm just going to wait for the end and just do all the detail last. All right. Let's see if we can zoom in here on the skull so you can kind of see what I'm pulling out. Oh. How's that? That good? That's good. All right, so when you do the skulls on black, and I've done similar things before, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do the teeth, get those really bright. I'm going to start with white on those. And then I'm going to move to around the facial structure into here and get that laid out. And I'll pull where the eyes are going to be. And then I'll do the bottom jaw. And we'll get it all set up for detail. Okay? Because I needed this brighter than this. So if you look at my reference, okay, so this is brighter, that's why I did it first, so it stands off this. Now I'm going to do this. This is brighter, so it stands off the back part of the cloak. And then so on and so forth.
Carl said I always wondered why he's the Grim Reaper. Is there also a Happy Reaper?
He looks like he's pretty happy doing his job. So again, with teeth, you always pull the teeth that are, when you're on a dark surface, you start from front and then go to back. If I was on a light surface like white, what I've done in other videos in the past, you would go the background. So you start on a light surface, you start at the back teeth and work up. Which I think I went over that on the tattooed water skull video. Now I can pull both directions. I start that center tooth. I can go here. But see how just doing that core highlight, it's already looking like teeth. Because I'm just staying in the middle, and you let that natural kind of soft spray go to the edges, and that creates that radius look of the teeth. Now we're down to the Fang. So I just go down the center. These back teeth and just load them in. Okay, all the teeth. Kind of the opposite of the aviator skull. The aviator skull, because I was going for a backlit look, I did it the same process I would do on a light colored panel. Good catch. these back teeth. Those back two are kind of together. Cool. Yeah, then we can just pull off. So now I'm going to come back up. So the teeth are done. Now I'm basically going to pull the face mask. Mine's tearing up a little bit because it's really humid in here, and I think this material got a little bit wet. So that'll happen. I'm just pulling around the eyes like this. So you end up with that. That's what I'm pulling right there. Okay? And luckily with this one, like first time I did it, I didn't have a reference. But this, now we have a reference. So now I'm getting to this point. And this is where I'm going to use the gray. And I'm just going to kind of core highlight at the eyebrows. I'm going to come off that nose bridge and go up from there. Kind of create, a scowl look. And I'm painting away from the edge of the template. I'm not trying to get a super hard edge, so that's why I'm painting outside of it. Notice how I don't go right to the edge. Look where my heavy spots, like just like a 1/16 away. Core highlight on the cheekbone. Let the overspray go down. Core highlight up here. Lights coming top down. Same as doing the fingers. And then come down off that septum off the nose. And I usually do like soft little daggers coming up from the teeth. Just so it radiuses out. London, you missed so much. You missed all the magic. Okay, so I'm doing that. Then I'm going to pull half that nose, so I can do like the septum going into the nose. And then I can pull the center itself and get that nice. And I still miss gray in there because I'm going to go in with black and do all the detail, but it's just setting up all the tone on everything. I can pull just under the cheekbone here, and that sets up the kind of back side of the jaw. Just kind of blend that out. It just gives me a nice roadmap on where to go. Now I can pull the eyes. And I'm just going to do soft strokes inside the eyes there. That sets it up really, really nice. Yeah, pillow batting, cotton balls for clouds works great. I like that too. Now I can pull the lower, and I can pull right here behind the temple. Go right around. And for the jaw, I just get the face of the front of the mandible. And come up. Again, just by not going out of the edge, it creates that radius a little bit and gives me a nice place to highlight off of. Yeah, root paper works great. Just I have the texture effects, so they're here. They work great. So, in general, to show the texture, because they have the holes, you get little things through it that create a nice look when you're doing clouds. Like I said, a lot of times I like tear up my Scotch-Brites and kind of rip them in half, like along their actual they're actual. I separate them like 2 plies, and you can actually get a really cool pattern that way as well. Okay, the back side of these teeth just get a little bit of gray. If you want to put some texture effects in the skull, this is a really good time to do it, because you could actually do it with the gray as another pass, or you can mix up it into like a lighter gray. So like I can go in and just put a little bit of texture in the face right now. Probably won't see much of it on camera, but it's there when you see it in person. So whoever buys this should be able to notice it. Yes, it's the FBS yellow mask. Well, gold mask, technically. Okay, so that's done. Yeah, let's go in with some of the white right now and just kind of brighten things up. So again, I already know what my core shadows are, my core highlights. So now I can kind of come in, and this is the opaque white. Like I said, I got this fairly reduced to run through the micron. And I'm just kind of going to soften some edges. Core highlight the head a little more. And just kind of hit that highlight in here. Hide the cheekbone. I'm going to do this again after I do the black detail. But I'm just kind of getting things. We'll map out a little crack in the skull there. But by doing this after the mask, you start cutting away that masking edge, so you don't actually see the plotted edge. Or if you're hand cutting this, the hand cutting edge. So you guys who don't have plotters, if you were to download this, I included nice JPEGs of this image, so you could essentially just like transfer it and hand cut it as well. In my method, there's no difference in painting than hand cutting versus this. It's the same process, because I design it as a hand artist, not a computer artist, which is a misconception a lot of people get when you say you use a plotter. You're like, oh, a computer did all the work. Computer just made my work more efficient, but everything else is still done by hand to start. Okay, so see? It's all roughed out. Let's flip back out here. You can see what's happening. And Caitlin, you can bring up the reference. Kind of see how that's all working. We're getting there. All right. Most of the mask is almost off. Fine. All right, so now I'm going to pull this out here. Yeah, it really does come together quick, Carl. Once you start moving along. So you can imagine how fast I can do these if I'm not talking. And like I said, this is diverse enough with these tweaks and these changes that you can really like change it and flip it around and use this in a lot of multiple ways. Now the one thing I didn't do, because it's kind of a, you can go either way, the handle goes through and you don't really see it, so I tend not to, like, I didn't put the cuts here because there's so many little ones. If you want to get technical, you could make little slits here and here, I'm not going to bother, but you could. It's easy enough to freehand in there. You know, and there's just not a lot of reason for it. Alright, so now we just need to put a little bit of, like, you know, bending, like a little bit of fabric work, like around the kind of rips and tears. Again, just so there's something, you want that delineation off the handle. I'm gonna put a little bit in here. You could even, like, kind of simulate, like, the neck muscle going down. Not the neck muscle, the actual neck bones, the vertebrae. And kind of the inside of the skull. That actually looks cool. I didn't do that in the original one, but still look now, just a couple little strokes. And now the neck bones are going back down, which looks super cool. A little bit of folds in here. And now, we pull the handle off this whole thing. And that stays the blackest because it comes off last. I'm going to go through here. Like I said, you could make little cuts if you wanted to for this, but I don't really. By the time I miss some white and then freehand, it's easier just to freehand it. So there's kind of two schools of thought under here. I picture this robe coming all the way through here, but you could also make the tree come all the way down. It's just how you, whatever your preference is right there. But I'd love to, like I said, a few of you guys already downloaded this. I'd love to see what you guys do with this image and how you guys mess around with it. And I almost thought of doing like a bright red background and then doing all this, which would really pop it off nice. If you remember the crow video I did a while back, I did that. That would have been really cool, just big bright red sky, and then the black and gray Reaper on the front would look really dynamic and cool. I'm going to pull these little 4 holes in the tombstone, the cross tombstone, so a little paint gets through there. So this is what I'm going to do here. Very subtle core highlight across it. And I only do this so I can put a little wood grain texture in. I'm going to take the white and do the same thing. I'm going to do simple wood grain. I'm going to do a circle. I'm going to flow it through. I went a little through the hand there. That's fine. I can cover that up. Like if you're going to do this one, you could spend an hour doing the blade. You could spend hours doing the skull. You can spend a lot more time doing little details and stuff. But the gist of it's the same. Okay, so before I do the cemetery, I gotta get, it's the last thing to come off. And it takes like 5 seconds. So, for all intents and purposes, this is done as far as masking. Now it's time for freehand. This is where I use the candy black. If I use the straight black, it goes to black too fast. Okay, so like if I cut in here, it's too black. And see how quick it just goes to black? It's like dead. Okay, I don't want that. Okay, I want to get, I'm going to brighten that back up. I want to tone it. I don't want to use black when I want to like 100% cover it. So now I'm going to use the candy black. The candy black allows me to go in and do a lot more tone. So you see up here, now I can come in and I can do this nice soft ripple. And it's got that kind of bluish purple cast to it, but see how much softer that is, and try to go with the black. And I can do a little rip and tear, little folds. This is where you can really have fun, and most of your time is spent doing detail. This is where I really like it. The candy black, yeah, Daniel, the candy black is just awesome. Because you can really have some fun with it. It's really nice and subtle. I love using it for pieces like this, because it just creates a cooler tone than straight black. But it lends itself really well to be able to come in with straight black and make it even darker. You can do little rips and tears and like stitches and breaks and things like that in the hood. And really just try to tone everything out. Now, if you wanted to remask it, but say you don't want to plot it a second time, this is where having a paper template comes in really handy. Because when I print this out, I print this 1-to-1 to the plot, so it lines right up. So if I want to, say, create like a stencil for this edge to do a soft shadow, I can't really move my camera, so I'm just going to do it off the side here. I can just cut around the same line. And I find this a much better process than trying to replot and stick it back on and have it line back up. I find this works much better to just cut a soft paper template, and I'll show you this in a second. So basically, I just cut this shape out. Now, if I don't want a freehand shadow edge, I can just put this on the edge like this and soft shadow it like that. And sometimes I like to do a little curve around that, and it creates a really cool shadow edge. Alright, let's get on this skull. Make this really detailed. We're going to do the neck bones in here. They don't need a lot. It's just a little shading. Yeah, so you can do a 200% opaque black, reduced opaque black, or illustration black, and that works fine too, but it's a different tone. The candy black, for me, gives a more softer blue-gray tone, like almost like Payne's gray black tone to it. I just like it better. And there's no pigment. There's no pigment in candy, so they flow a lot easier, especially through a micron, than the opaque colors or the regular illustration colors, because those have black pigments in it. think it's time I'm gonna polish my Takumi needle. I've worked this thing to death. It might need a good overhauling. There we go. So just how that just shaded that eye a little bit, did some detailing here. We'll bring that crack out. And this is where the lesson kind of goes. You're almost on your own at this point. You can follow along, but this is all brush control. This has nothing to do with plotting, nothing to do with layers and order. This is just straight up brush control. Understanding core shadow and dark. So see how I just worked that line for the underside to really carve it. And then I put the core shadow just above it, so you still leave a little bit of white showing, but it creates that radius. So you see how fast I can detail this because all the tone is already there on everything. I think my vent was plugged up on the top of my gun. Yeah, this one's a little clogged. See, I'm just going through those little details. Details. Yeah, man, the batting's great. The batting works really good. Just cotton balls. But yeah, that's for clouds. You can do, there's a million variants on it. Basically, you just want to have a nice soft edge. That's the key. So whether you want to use texture effects or Scotch Brights or sandpaper or cloth, or doesn't matter. They all kind of work the same way. Find what works for you. Now for the teeth, I come up off the center of each tooth and go a little soft stroke up, and loop around up, loop around up, up, up. And that gives you that nice kind of socket. Now I come across the bottom. I usually trace along the bottom and then just do a little soft dagger strokes up. For the separation of the teeth. And coming down. I strain every color. Doesn't matter what it is, I strain it. Candies, opaques, illustrations, clear coats. You never know if there's going to be something of a dry particulate that might have settled in there. It's a good habit to get into. Again, if you come from an automotive background, I don't know one automotive painter that doesn't strain their paints before it goes into their spray gun before they spray a car. So I don't see any difference in doing artwork. I think it's actually more imperative on artwork because you work with such a small airbrush and opening. It doesn't take much to get it. Name a subscriber. The machine valve I have doesn't take an O-ring. It uses some kind of thick, sticky lube and sealant. Any idea what that is? Where I can get it? I tried gasoline. Mac valve. Is it on an Iwata or is it on a different, like, knockoff brush? Well, not really knockoff, like a clone. And that skull face is pretty done. Didn't take too long. We're an hour and a half in. The hard stuff's done. Now we're doing some of the closed ripples. And tone this in. Just kind of work it from there. Alright, let's do... We're going to go and do some more wood graining. You'll be cool with this if you have, I don't have them with me here, is Dennis Mathewson did a cool wood grain set a while back. That's really helpful. It's got some cool stuff. You could use that if you're having trouble. Little circles. A little bit more here. And as I kind of kiss over this in the dark, I'm kind of setting that up. It attaches to the hose line. The air leaks if there's not enough lube. And it's like unscrewing it. Neighbors, do me a favor. I'm not familiar with that. It's not a Mac valve. Why don't you send me some pictures of it on my Facebook or Instagram, and we'll see if we can figure it out. Because it's not making sense to me. Okay, so there's that. Hands. Again, if your freehand skills are lacking, you can go back in and remask it, either by paper or by replotting it and sticking it back on, or you could have saved the pieces. Me, I'm just going to freehand the knuckles. And zoom back out here. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, Nameless, it doesn't sound right.
Oh,
Just send me some pictures. We'll get it worked out. Yeah, beeswax might work for you. You know, this brush, I think I got something jammed in here. I'm going to dump this out really quick. I'm just going to give this a quick flush. Some isopropyl alcohol. Silicone sounds right, just don't know. Yeah, you don't want to use silicone. Because if you start doing any automotive paint, you're risking having problems. You shouldn't need something like that anywhere on the brush. What kind of brush is it? Alright, just a quick clean. Alright, back to it. There we go. I think sometimes it just wants to be cleaned out quick and reset. You're welcome, sir. Basically just giving this area the same type of robe look, because I want to put some little fog here at the end. I'm going to detail this one up. Like I said, if you need a paper stencil at this point for each one, you just go in and set each one up. A little coarse shadow on each knuckle. And that really comes together quick. Yeah, Carl, I'll have to look at it. I'll have to have some pictures. We'll get it worked out. But there should be nothing. Airbrush. 0.0 airbrush quick release disconnect Mac valve coupling. Item name. But you shouldn't need like silicone or Teflon or anything on any type of part to make a connection. Hold air. Hey Shane, there you go. Yeah, much better video, right? It shouldn't be that big of a gap unless it's machining problems. You shouldn't need to use something like that. And if you do, it might just be minor, but it shouldn't rely on it as like part of the brush. Because I have the Grex, Mac valve quick connect, and mine connects right up, and the quick connect goes right into it. I don't use any Teflon or anything, or any silicone around the threads. I have that one. Virgilio, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Hey, Chris. Done with the hands. I'm gonna do some little detailing here. We'll put some happy little cracks in the scythe, or whichever you want to call it. Just comes together really, really, really cool. Oops, wrong camera angle. Let's see here. There we go. Let's see if we can switch out to just that. Okay, I want to take down the reference image. So you can see the whole thing. I think it'll be easy at this point for a straight-on shot. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. It's 20 minutes. We're getting close to the end here. I'm doing the last few things. We have current bid on this $250. The download is available for anyone that wants to do this project. Yeah, it's gonna look great at Gary's Art Museum. Unless someone wants to dethrone him, I'm happy to.
$250.
Oh, the spine coming here. Yeah, that really actually, you know, compared to the original, it just gives it a little bit more, which is cool. Let's go to 12 millimeter. Put some extra little rips and tears up here in the cloak. All right. All right, so now I'm going to do a little bit of smoke.
Cody Adam asked, did you mix the candy with 40/50?
Yes, and I did like almost 1-to-1, but a little bit more candy, so it's like 1 to 1 1/4. So, hey Dan, how you doing? So I want to do some smoke, and I'm just gonna like spray from a distance with some gray, just kind of give it a little foggy feel. Very light. Because now what I want to do is all these cemetery have like the and I can't think of the term, the extruded plane, like the side to side angle. So we're gonna hit those like they're being caught by light from the back side of the stones, so the stones themselves, the faces stay in silhouette in black. And if you pull something off and notice there's not left delineation, just go in there, pull it back on, try to take your time. Mike's Brush in the house. Everyone make sure you stay tuned from Mike's Brush's giveaway tomorrow. Hey Mike, if you want to post up a link real quick on tomorrow's feed and what's going on, feel free to do that. We'll talk about some times. Mike's got a great giveaway happening tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow, right? And Connie's in the house. feel free to give that a plug, sir. You can see I'm just pulling off all these side pieces. Okay. And that I'm going to light with white. Skull Squad! The white settled a little bit. And here's the thing about opaque white. Did you get spammed by the Skull Squad? Not spammed. Mike has permission. The one thing about opaque white, you guys gotta remember, when you're in a gravity feed situation, after an hour or so, if you don't move that brush around a lot, that white pigment will settle to the bottom. Okay, and it'll get harder to spray. So you're gonna have to, shake it up and move it around a little bit. It's just gravity. It has nothing to do with the paint other than gravity. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray just the edge of the stones, but I'm spraying on the template. And I'm just putting a little detail. It doesn't take much. I'm not going on the edge. I'm just putting a little bit. So they're still kind of silhouetted. But it gives a little bit of delineation. Watch on my TV. Give away. That Mike, one of those videos. Well, white, it just, especially the heavier the opaque white is, the more material it has inside it, so they will settle. The less opaque, the less problems you're going to have. Okay, so there's that. And now I should be able to pull. Before I do that, let me get down here and do a little cloud adjustment. Thanks, Dave. Alright, now I should be able to pull off this final piece of mask and then do all the final little details. Sign this baby and send it to its new home. Which right now that's looking like it's gonna be Gary. Unless someone wants to dethrone him. Current bid is at $250. Just frames is really cool by having the cemetery block in the front. Have a go, man. Look at that. Nice and cool. And this with a little bit of smoke down here. You could actually do like, here's one of my glue templates that I make with the glue. Just put a little bit of stuff down here. And you could do some grass. And just a little bit of freestyling stuff. You could hide some skulls back here. You could hide some of the clouds. You can go around the edge and just do a little separations. Just something to give it a little interest. You could bring the stones down a little bit. This is, Dan, this is a 12 by 18 inch panel. But it's a really good size panel, as you can see. Really good size. Unmasking added depth. Yeah, it's just by giving it that that foreground and background separation. So now I can go in with the white and do all the final details. And brighten some things up. If you're familiar with like Rod Fuchs's work, you'll notice he goes at this point. There's a lot of brush work. Brush work's always cool. Or, like, if you really want to get the ultimate pop, you can go in, clear this panel, and then go in for additional white highlights later. And that really creates a dramatic depth and effect. You can add some more lightning. So, Mike, I go to my sign supplier, or you go to like a metal shop. I buy a 4x8 sheet of, this is that Durabond, or Alumacore. So it's PVC core with aluminum on both sides. I buy a 4x8 sheet, and about $95, and then I have them cut it to 18x24s, and then I cut them down myself after that to 12x18s or whatever size I want. It's about $100. You get about, if you do a 12x18, you get about 20 panels out of it, so it's really affordable. So I'm in Massachusetts. I use a company called Supplies Unlimited in Wakefield. I know they do ship. Dave Monig at Coast Airbrush also carries pre-cut panels, black and white. This are already black, so all you gotta do is scuff it. Didn't have to base it, just scuff the panel and start airbrushing. That's what's really awesome about these panels. I used to just use 040 aluminum. And actually, that used to be cheaper than these sheets, but since the cost increases, 040 aluminum has become more expensive than this 1/8" Alumacore, because obviously aluminum weight. So it's actually cheaper now to get this stuff than it was how I used to do it. So it's actually worked out really good. Alright, so final bids in. If anyone's interested, let me know. If not, this is going to Mr. Gary. And Gary knows we're going to put in a little extra after this is done. But if you guys want to follow along or do it, you can watch this video back. And go to McKayFineArt.com, download the Reaper. For the next week, that's only going to be a $40 download. And it does come with 3 Reapers, which you can variant a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different hands, a bunch of different extras. And I think this is a file set that if you buy it, I'm going to do some add-ons to it down the road. And so all those add-ons will either be very low cost of pre-purchases or free. You'll just get an email that there's a new download option for this set, and you'll be able to get that as well. So I'm just using some black. I'm going to carve in some heavy. I'm going to sign this thing. You're very welcome, Shine. And let's see, do I have my white paint pen? Huh.
Is it? No, that's bronze.
No. Is it over on that side? Might not be.
Yes, it is. Thin one.
Alright, so this is going to Gary. Thank you, Gary, for your bid. Thank you for everyone who did the download. Look forward to seeing what you're going to do. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. Definitely watch this back. And go from there. We'll do a little bit of pen work on the side. Fangs. Cool, cool, cool. Well, I think that panel worked out really, really awesome overall. Let's see here. I gotta see. Nope. Trying to do something, and there we go. So that concludes the Reaper panel. Definitely go on, download this project, have fun with it, mix and match with other of my products. All these products and downloads are created. A lot of them can work together. You can use the elements like the bats and the skull paintings, and you can work them back and forth. So definitely go on and look for different ways to use them. If you got any questions, feel free to message me and at scott@thinAirGraphics.com, or you can catch me on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you for your time and checking this out. Make sure you share this, like it, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We're going to get to 10,000 real soon. I'm going to plan on giveaway painting for that. So stay tuned for that. And I want to thank all our sponsors and thank all our supporters. Thank all you guys for popping in and bidding and all that fun stuff. So I will see you all next week. Got some new surprises next week. We're going to be able to do some new stuff on the feed. So stay tuned. We'll see you then. Have a good night, everyone.